Yamada is an edgy gamer who dodges baddies like side quests because he doesn't understand love. However, when he meets a sad gamer girl who got cheated on, he falls in love with her and will do anything to make her happy so she'll let him hit it anytime he wants. It all starts when Akane is dumped by her boyfriend Takuma because he found someone with bigger melons. After heading home, she logs into the game they used to play together. That's when she runs into a weird afro-haired guy who is actually Yamada and texts him. Yamada invites her to hunt, but she starts yapping about getting pumped and dumped by her ex until Yamada gets annoyed and disconnects from the game. Soon after, she is invited to the game's live event and she decides to go, hoping she'll run into Takuma and his new chick. The next day, she arrives at the event and bumps into a guy, causing her shoe to fly off like she's some low-budget Cinderella. She turns around to see Yamada, a drop-dead gorgeous boy holding her shoe like Prince Charming. Akane immediately gets moist and starts explaining to him that she was lost in thought, but the guy seems disinterested, causing her embarrassment. He says he's not interested and begins walking away, and that's when she realizes that Yamada from the game said something similar to her. When she asks him if he's Yamada, the guy stops for a second and asks if they have met before. Just then, she hears Takuma's voice behind him, and she starts posing, thinking he's shocked to see her. In reality, Takuma is shocked to see Yamada and runs in to shake his hand. His girl asks who Yamada is, and Takuma reveals he is a very popular pro gamer whom he looks up to. Akane feels broken beyond repair, so to save her skin, she swoops in and introduces Yamada as her new boyfriend. Yamada quietly says he's not, but she begs him to play along and bribes him with a code for a rare in-game item. Yamada accepts the offer and confirms that he's dating Akane, which makes Takuma jealous. As Takuma falls to his knees, Akane feels victorious until she realizes he's getting laid tonight and she isn't. He forces Yamada to join her in a bar, asking him to keep her company because she doesn't want to be alone. As she begins yapping about her ex, Yamada finally connects the dots that she's the same girl he ran into in-game. Akane tells him he's gonna die a virgin if he keeps acting so cold, and Yamada says she's right because he's never had a girlfriend before. Akane is shocked at first, and when he says he's not interested in romance, Akane thinks maybe he's right because she got dumped. When she starts tearing up, she excuses herself to the bathroom, where she realizes her clothes are dirty thanks to the fall she took. She also notices that she scraped her leg and wishes she had never gone to that event. When she returns, she finds her table empty and realizes she got dumped by yet another man. Realizing she's going to be all alone now, she starts to tear up again, but Yamada suddenly appears behind her. He then asks her to sit and reveals he left to buy band-aids because he saw her scraped leg. He then puts it on her, and Akane is so moved by his kindness that she promises to buy him as many drinks as he wants and even let him hit it later. The next day, Akane wakes up from her hangover and hears Yamada's voice in the background. She quickly realizes that she is in her room and assumes she got her kitty slapped last night. As he slowly walks towards her, she panics and jumps out of the bed, asking him to explain what happened last night. Yamada reveals she got really drunk last night, and his only choices were to dump her on the street or take her home, so he chose the latter option. Akane gets on her knees to apologize, but she feels even worse when he tells her she puked on her clothes and he had to wash them. After getting dressed, she immediately leaves and realizes how miserable her life is. Returning home, she suddenly realizes that she is missing her necklace and starts to panic. She looks around everywhere in the house but is unable to find it, so her last option is to ask Yamada if it is at his apartment. She logs into the game to text him, but the guy is offline, and she starts remembering how that necklace was the first present she got from Takuma. With no one to talk to, she confides in the guildmaster Ruri until Yamada finally logs into the game. She immediately texts him about the necklace, but Yamada tells her it's not here. He then tells Ruri that the guild storage is always full, no matter how many times he cleans it. But Ruri believes someone must have left these items for new players. Yamada says these items are completely trash, and not even newbies will find them useful. But Ruri asks him to be nice, or whoever left them will get hurt. That's when Akane reveals she was the one who left them here, and even when Ruri tries to salvage the situation, Yamada doubles down and calls them useless trash when he asks her to be more selective. Akane feels so down that she logs out of the game, and Yamada decides to skedaddle as well. As he steps away from his computer, he feels something under his foot and realizes it's Akane's necklace, which he just broke by stepping on it. A few days later, Akane has a dream about Takuma, who apologizes for breaking up with her and gives her a present as a peace offering. However, his current girl jumps out of the gift box, causing Akane to suddenly wake up. Later, she shares this dream with her friend Momo, who is as nonchalant as ever and tells her to find a new man because her Takuma stories are getting boring. She asks her to speak more about the hot gamer guy she met at the event, questioning if she really spent the night at his place without getting back shots. Akane reassures her that nothing happened between them, but she's really worried because she dropped her necklace at his place. Momo asks why she's holding on to a gift from the guy who dumped her, and follows it up by taking more shots at Akane, which makes her feel crushed. As she walks home, she realizes she is a loser like y'all, and it's not fun playing the game all alone. Just then, she sees a girl confessing to her senior, which reminds her of the time she got rejected. That's when she hears Yamada's voice, telling the girl to stop wasting his time and approach him when she formulates her thoughts. Seeing her rude behavior, Akane immediately calls him out and reminds him that she's the same girl he met at the game event. She apologizes for the trouble she caused him and advises him to be more gentle because that girl was about to confess to him. Yamada is shocked to hear that, which makes Akane realize he's the CEO of socially inept people. As they walk together, Akane notices his uniform and realizes he goes to an elite school, which means either his daddy is rich or he's actually got the brains for it. Then suddenly, Yamada reveals he wanted to see her again, which gives Akane butterflies. However, when he pulls out the broken necklace from his pocket, Akane is heartbroken to see it in this shape. She keeps her emotions in check and walks out of the station, only to see a heavy rain outside, wanting to go home as soon as possible. She starts sprinting in the rain, but Yamada runs after her and hands her an umbrella before running off. The next day, she lies in her bed, holding the broken necklace when she hears her doorbell. When she opens the door, she is bombarded by delivery men who leave several boxes in her room. She also receives a letter from her mother, telling her that she's turning her room into a gym and wants to clear it of her stuff. Akane immediately calls Momo and begs her to help her, but Momo sternly tells her to throw it all out. After a few hours, Momo stuffs all the useless stuff in the trash bags but refrains from throwing the umbrella and the broken necklace. That's when she remembers Yamada's words about being selective, so she decides to throw out everything except for the teddy bear her grandma gave her. Afterward, the girls hit the barbecue place, but they get so drunk that Akane ends up ringing Yamada's bell, telling him she came to get her pipes unclogged and to return his umbrella. Despite being annoyed, Yamada calmly takes his umbrella and asks them to leave, but Momo snuggles up to him and asks him to marry her, which actually pisses him off. That's when Akane says she actually came here to thank him, because if he wasn't there at the event, she would have had a rough day. She then drags Momo away before he calls the cops, but before she leaves, Yamada suddenly realizes she is in a lot of pain. He hesitantly tells him that the guildmates have been worried about her since she hasn't logged on for days. He then casually invites him to play with her whenever she is free, and this instantly lifts up her mood. A few weeks later, Akane ends up going on a group date with Momo, but the entire time she's completely out of place and clearly uncomfortable. She even tries to convince Momo to let her leave, but Momo brushes it off and insists she stay. With no other choice, Akane settles for scrolling through her phone until one of the guys finally approaches her and tries to start a conversation in hopes that he gets lucky tonight. He mentions he heard she likes games and asks her to share the name of the one she's currently into so they can play together. Claiming he's also into games, Akane tells him she's been playing an online game called Phos, but it's obvious the guy has no clue what she's talking about, which only makes her lose interest even more. After the date wraps up, Momo complains that Akane spent the whole time glued to her phone instead of mingling with the guys. Akane apologizes and explains that she was messaging Ruri during the outing. Momo gets a little suspicious and asks why she thought it was smart to give her number to someone she only knew from an online game. Akane defends herself, saying Ruri doesn't feel like a stranger at all, and even shows her their chat history while talking about how cute her character is. Momo finds the whole thing sketchy and asks how Akane can be sure Ruri isn't just a neckbeard fatso pretending to be a girl online. This plants a tiny seed of doubt in Akane's mind, and after Momo leaves, she starts questioning her own judgment. Just then, she passes by a girl in bunny outfit, and for some reason, it reminds her of Ruri. Later that night, Akane changes into her pajamas and eagerly logs into Phos, already way more excited to play her favorite game than she ever was about that date. As she waits for everything to load, she realizes that she might actually be turning into a sweaty gamer girl. She quickly pushes the thought aside and heads into the game, but the guild hall is completely empty. While wandering around, she eventually spots Ruri and Yamada outside, working together on some kind of potion. She tries calling out to them, but they're so caught up in their own conversation that they don't even notice her. Akane quietly reads through their chat, where Ruri says it used to be just the two of them when they first started the guild. As welcoming as she is, she says it is nice that it's just the two of them online today, when Yamada says it was easier when it was just them. Akane starts wondering if the two are secretly a couple. She debates whether to say something, but before she can decide, Yamada finally spots her and lets Ruri know she's online. Ruri immediately greets her warmly, and Akane apologizes for barging in on their talk, but Ruri assures her it's no big deal. As the girls begin chatting, Yamada logs off, and Ruri tells him she'll call him later, which only makes Akane more convinced that something's going on between them. She recalls how he and Takuma became a couple when they started playing the game together, and it makes her feel sad that everyone is getting laid while she's here with a cucumber. The next day, while sitting in class, she finds herself unable to stop thinking about Ruri and Yamada. She even considers digging through Yamada's socials to look for any clues about their relationship, but refrains because spying is bad. After school, while walking to the station, she runs into the same guy from the group date. She recognizes him, but still can't remember his name, and as they walk together, he keeps trying to talk about foes, hoping she'll let him hit it from the back. Akane doesn't care at all about what he's saying, but figures since he's a guy and into games, maybe he's at least heard of Yamada. She brings up his name, but the guy clearly has no idea who Yamada is, which only makes her feel worse. As they approach the station, something catches her eye, a girl who looks just like Ruri running by. She keeps her eyes on her and gets shocked when she sees the girl meet up with Yamada. Watching them walk away together, she suddenly remembers Yamada once said he never had a girlfriend and starts wondering if he was capping her. The guy beside her finally notices she's not paying attention to him anymore and asks if something's wrong. Akane just says she has somewhere to be, apologizes, and quickly walks away. He tries to call after her, but she's already gone, too caught up in her own thoughts about Yamada and the girl she now assumes is Ruri. That night, while lying in bed, Akane gets a text from Ruri letting her know there's going to be a AFO's collaboration cafe opening next month. She says she wants the guild members to go together, and mentions that Yamada already agreed to come since they met up earlier that day. This confirms Akane's suspicion that the girl she saw was indeed Ruri, and while she still doesn't want to believe they're a couple, she texts back and says she'll go. A few days later, on the day of the meetup, Ruri sends a reminder, and Akane starts getting ready for the big day. On the train, she texts Momo to let her know where she's going. Momo immediately freaks out, warning her that meeting strangers from online games is risky, and she could be walking into a trap. But Akane calms her down by saying Yamada will be there too, which makes Momo feel a little better. Once she gets off the train, Akane struggles to follow the map and ends up getting lost. While trying to figure out where she is, a guy named Hada bumps into her and makes her drop her phone. The guy quickly apologizes and picks it up, and when he sees the map on her screen, he asks if she's also heading to the AFO's cafe. She says yes, so he offers to walk with her since he's going there too. At first, Akane wonders if following a random guy is a good idea, but as they walk and he starts geeking out about games, she relaxes a bit. Eventually, he asks her what she thinks of foes, and Akane admits she's still pretty new to it. She even jokes about getting scolded for putting junk in the guild storage recently. The guy gives her a look that's oozing Rizzlard, but before he can say anything, someone calls his name. When Akane turns to see who it is, she realizes it's Ruri and feels relieved. But her eyes immediately light up when she sees Yamada standing nearby, chatting with a short, bald Discord mod named Kamoda. She rushes across the street to greet him, but while she's talking, Ruri walks over and holds onto Yamada's sleeve like she's claiming territory. Her intense stare makes Akane nervous, making her realize Ruri is much different from how she acts in-game. Before she can say much else, the girl looks at Hada and asks who she is. He smiles and says her name is Akane and that she's their guildmate. The group finally enters the AFO's collaboration cafe and picks a table, settling in as Hada and Kamoda start chatting about what to order. Akane sits quietly, feeling out of place since the only people she somewhat knows are Yamada and the girl she thought was Ruri, who keeps giving her cold looks. Still, she tries to make conversation and asks her about the two guys they're with. The girl responds rudely, saying the tall guy is Hada and the chubby man is Kamoda, then throws another jab by questioning why Akane keeps calling her Ruri since that's not even her in-game name. Akane is confused and doesn't understand what she means until Yamada jumps in and suggests everyone introduce themselves to clear things up. Hada goes first and introduces himself as the person who plays Ruri in the game, which completely stuns Akane. She calls him a Nakama, but Hada argues he's not a fake and says that even though he and Ruri aren't the same on the outside, they're one and the same on the inside. Akane doesn't buy it and tells him he tricked her into sharing her contact, but he brushes it off and says she gave it to Ruri, not him. Her brain short-circuits from being surrounded by sweaty gamers, and she slumps back into her seat, completely drained. Next, Kamoda introduces himself and says Akane probably doesn't know his character because he's always off clearing dungeons. Then he points to the short, sharp-tongued girl and says she's Runa, Hada's little sister, and the face model for the character Ruri. Runa doesn't say much until she hears Kamoda mention that Akane and Yamada already know each other. That sets her off, and she demands to know how they met. Yamada says it's too complicated to explain, but Akane interrupts him and says it happened at an offline event. Runa then passes her the death stare, making Akane realize she totally hates her. Ignoring her, Akane nervously tells Yamada that she thought he and Ruri were a thing because they always acted so close in the game. Yamada explains that Hada is his upperclassman, and when they're online, he just follows his lead, even if the role-playing gets weird. Akane says she gets it now and admits she believed he was lying when he said he never had a girlfriend, but he's so down bad virgin that he's role-playing with other men. Yamada calmly says he'd never lie about something like that, and Akane smiles, saying she's relieved, but as soon as the words leave her mouth, she starts to question why she feels that way. Right on cue, Runa demands to know if Akane has a thing for Yamada, which catches her off guard. Before she can answer, Heida covers Runa's mouth and apologizes, saying Runa gets defensive about people she cares about. Runa doesn't take it well, which leads to an argument between the two. Trying to ignore the chaos, Akane picks up her drink to calm herself. But when she catches Yamada staring at her, she gets raised on and drops her glass. While she bends down to pick it up, Yamada stops her and says the staff should handle it since she might cut herself. Flustered, she turns her head away to hide her red face and stays like that until he leaves to take a phone call. Once she returns to her seat, Heida follows after Yamada while Kawamoto strikes up a light conversation to help Akane feel more at ease. Kawamoto explains that the rest of them have been friends for a while, originally meeting in another game before moving to FOS. He adds that Runa barely plays, which is why Akane's never seen her online. Then he casually mentions that Heida had been looking forward to meeting her in real life. Runa hears that and goes off, accusing Akane of trying to get double back shots from both Yamada and Eita. Meanwhile, Heida finds Yamada outside and immediately calls him out for faking the phone call. Yamada admits he stepped out because he thought Akane didn't want him around, which makes Heida realize he's a freaking moron. He tells Yamada that Akane avoided eye contact because she was embarrassed, but Yamada doesn't get it. Heida just shakes his head and changes the topic, saying that Akane is way more interesting than Yamada had described. Yamada insists his description was accurate, but Heida says otherwise and warns him that if he doesn't start paying attention to girls, he'll die a virgin like y'all. Suddenly, Yamada is hit with a flashback of a girl crying for him and asking if he feels sorry, which makes him zone out for a few seconds. After lunch, everyone heads outside, while Akane chats with Heida and Yamada. Runa whispers to Kawamoto that she doesn't like Akane cause she is a two-timing Kawamoto is stunned by her words, but Runa doesn't care and mutters to herself that she'll kick Akane out of their guild because she doesn't belong there. Once the group parts ways, Akane and Yamada board the same train since they live near each other. On board, Akane tries to make small talk with Yamada, but his one-word replies make her run out of things to say. Then suddenly, she notices the girls murmuring around them, making him wonder if they see them as a couple. As she's lost in thought, the train jerks unexpectedly, and Akane stumbles right into Yamada's chest. He suggests switching places so it won't happen again, and when they do, Akane realizes that the girls are staring at Yamada and not her. She remembers how she couldn't stop staring at him when they first met and starts thinking about Runa's question about whether she has feelings for him. She wonders why Runa would even think that, but the more she tries to shake it off, the harder it is to ignore. To take her mind off things, she asks Yamada what he's planning to eat for dinner, and he casually says pudding. Akane laughs, thinking he's joking. But when they get off the train and he actually buys pudding, she realizes he was dead serious. As they walk, she asks if he usually cooks, and he admits that he doesn't know how, so he lives off convenience store meals. Akane doesn't like the sound of that, so she makes him wait by a bench while she rushes home to make some food. When she comes back, Yamada is sitting there half asleep, and she quickly apologizes for making him wait. She hands over the bags and shows him what she brought, saying she even included some veggies so he eat a proper meal. Yamada says he can't take it, but she insists, saying it's from the heart and she really wants him to have it. Right then, Akane gets a call from Runa, who shocks her by apologizing for her earlier behavior. She says she got Akane's number from Eita and wants to be friends. Akane is caught off guard, but happily agrees, and the two even make plans to hang out the following Saturday. When the call ends, Akane excitedly tells Yamada about it, saying she's looking forward to becoming good friends with Runa. Later that night, Yamada sits in his room and thinks about the upcoming meetup between Akane and Runa. Something about it doesn't sit right with him, so he checks his calendar. That's when he notices he already has a tutoring session scheduled with Runa that same Saturday, making him wonder if there's been some kind of mistake or if things are about to get weird. The following weekend, Yamada is aimlessly browsing through his PC when he suddenly gets a call from Heida, who asks if he's coming over to tutor Runa as scheduled. He finds it weird because she made plans with Akane, but decides he's too cool to care and agrees to come. Meanwhile, Akane shows up at the cafe where she's supposed to meet Runa, but instead of seeing her, there's a sketchy man waiting who claims he's there on Runa's behalf. Right away, Akane feels uneasy around him, especially when he starts going on about how glad he is that she's actually a girl and not some dude pretending to be one online. She tries to explain over and over that she's not Ruri, but the guy doesn't seem to get it. Just then, Akane's phone buzzes with a message from Runa, saying she's running late and has sent her friend to keep Akane company until she gets there. Reading that text makes Akane start to panic, because she can't believe she's stuck with some random weirdo until Runa arrives. She quickly excuses herself and heads straight to the bathroom, locking herself inside a stall before trying to call Runa. Meanwhile, Yamada is at Heida's house for a tutoring session with Runa, As he flips through her workbook, he casually asks if she has any plans for the day, and she lies, saying she doesn't. Just then, her phone rings, and when she sees it's Akane calling, she immediately rejects the call. Back at the cafe, Akane sits on the toilet in despair, realizing Runa isn't going to answer, and she's stuck with a stranger she barely knows. Her nerves spike when the guy she was sitting with starts knocking on the stall door, asking her to come out. That's when Akane's internal alarms go off, because now she's genuinely afraid of what he might do. Things get worse when he tries to open the stall door by force, and she starts to panic. Back at Heida's place, Runa finally admits she ditched Akane and had no problem sending a stranger in her place. She defends herself by saying she didn't see anything wrong with it. When Yamada hears that, he stands up, clearly upset, and heads for the door, only to find Heida standing there holding snacks. Heida tries to lighten the mood, but he immediately picks up on the tension in the room and asks what's going on. Once Yamada explains everything, Heida logs into his account to check if what Runa said is true and sees that she did, in fact, message the man using his computer. While the boys are checking through the messages, Runa stares at photos of their original guild and wonders why everything can't just go back to how it was before Akane joined. Moments later, Kawamoto shows up at the door in a frenzy because Heida told him Akane might be in danger, just to get in there faster. The four of them pile into Kawamoto's van, and they all rush toward the cafe. While Kawamoto speeds through traffic, Yamada tries to calm him down, and Heida scolds Runa for what she did. He reminds her that this kind of selfish attitude is exactly why she doesn't have friends at school. Runa doesn't seem to care and says she has plenty of online friends, but Heida isn't buying it. He tells her to consider Akane's feelings because she was genuinely excited to meet her, which makes Runa reflect on her actions. When they arrive at the cafe, Yamada is the first to spot Akane sitting with a strange man and notices right away that something feels off. But before he can react, Kawamoto runs ahead, crying, and asks if Akane is okay. After making sure she's unharmed, he immediately turns to the man and threatens legal action if he did anything shady, leaving both Akane and the guy totally confused. Heida and Yamada catch up, and Heida explains they rushed over because they thought Runa set her up with a diddler. Yamada then notices the bandage on Akane's leg and asks what happened. The man admits that she hurt herself after hitting her knee on the toilet bowl when he accidentally scared her in the bathroom. Heida is furious that the man entered the women's restroom and grabs him by the tie, asking what made him think that was okay. The guy tries to justify it by saying he thought she had fainted, and he went there to get her medicine. As the awkward argument continues, Yamada stands frozen in place, observing the tomfoolery around him. He finally apologizes to Akane, saying that if he'd told her earlier about tutoring Runa that Saturday, none of this would have happened. Akane is surprised to hear that and tells herself that Runa probably didn't mean to stand her up, and maybe she just got caught up in the tutoring session. Even though a part of her knows the truth, she decides to believe the lie because she still wants to think of Runa as her friend. Runa, overwhelmed by guilt, runs off. But when Akane tries to follow her, her injured leg gives out. Hearing her cry out, Runa rushes back and asks if she's okay. But before Akane can answer, Heida steps in and tells Runa to come with him because she needs to be taught a lesson. Runa turns to Yamada, hoping he'll defend her, but he tells her he's not going to protect her this time. With no choice, she follows Heida as he drags her away. But they stop when Akane calls out again, pretending her stomach is burning, and asks Heida to buy her painkillers from a nearby shop. She tells Yamada and Kawamoto to go too, and asks the creep to leave. Once everyone is gone, she tells Runa to stay and rub her stomach until they return. Now alone, Akane sits back down while Runa remains standing, clearly embarrassed by the whole situation. To break the tension, Akane casually starts talking about FOS when Runa finally snaps and demands to know why Akane is acting like nothing's wrong. She blurts out that she stood her up on purpose because she didn't like her and wanted her gone from the guild. Akane stays quiet for a moment but remembers how Runa rushed back to check on her after her leg gave out, and that gives her the answer she needs. She says she came here today because she thinks highly of all of them and wanted to meet her in person so she can also accept her like everyone else has. Hearing that, Runa starts crying and apologizes because she never expected Akane to be so kind to her after everything she did. Instead of saying anything, Akane just smiles at her, letting her express her emotions. Meanwhile, the guys are on their way back, and Heida is crying because his cute little sister has become a menace to society. When they finally return, they are shocked to see Akane comforting Runa like nothing ever happened, and Yamada is surprised to see how well she handled this situation. A few days later, Runa is in class, acting all nonchalant, hoping her classmates would approach her, but they think she's a weirdo. She also recalls how she was bullied by her seniors, but she copes by telling herself that she has many online friends. She also believes all the guys in her class have a crush on her, but since she dresses up as a gothic freak outside of school, they keep their distance from her. On top of that, her brother and her friend are both very handsome, so all the other guys look like poorly drawn NPCs to her. Just then, she notices some girls doing a new TikTok dance in class, which makes her realize that she might actually be a loner. After school, Runa drops by Akane's place and shows her the dance she saw the girls do in class. Since Akane is older than her, she lets her act like a spoiled brat, which makes her happy. But since Akane has other friends too, this makes Runa jealous because she wants Akane all to herself. However, as they spend more time together, Runa begins to think that Akane is just as weird as her, which makes them a perfect match. A few days later, Runa visits again to help her figure out how to beat a level in FOs while Momo lounges beside them, ranting about how she's dying to get her cookie slapped. When she notices they're both ignoring her, she snaps and tells Akane she should be worried about getting a boyfriend instead of gaming with a kid who clearly ran away from home. Akane calmly explains that Runa isn't running from home, but is just avoiding Haida because things are still tense between them. Momo says that's not her business and adds that if Runa wants to hang out, she should do it with people her own age. This sets Runa off, and she tells Momo to stop acting like a bitter, washed-up hag and just go home if she's so bored. Momo responds with a death stare and a not-so-subtle threat, which instantly sends Runa flying into Akane's arms. While Runa munches on her snack, Akane goes back to playing FOs, and Momo switches topics to Yamada. Akane casually says he's just a friend who's been helping her with the game, and Runa chimes in to say that Yamada's just naturally kind. She also mentions that he still finds time to tutor her even while preparing for his own entrance exams. Momo becomes curious, and soon the two of them start gossiping about Yamada, wondering why someone so hot has never bagged a shawty. Akane doesn't join in the gossip and keeps playing, and while she's at it, she sees that Yamada just logged in. She gets excited and starts chatting with him, bragging about how much she's leveled up. She even shows off her newly upgraded shoes, but Yamada immediately points out that she used the wrong materials. She feels deflated, especially since she wasted her hard-earned gems, but Yamada offers her a spare pair from his inventory. She refuses because she wants to earn her own, so she tells him she'll go out hunting for more materials. Yamada wishes her luck and even adds a smiling emoji, which shocks her so much she screams, convinced that Yamada showing emotion is a glitch in the Matrix. Seeing her freak out over a game, Momo tackles her away from the laptop, begging her to forget it already. Akane wrestles free and calmly back to her desk, only to watch in horror as her laptop starts sparking and lets out a puff of smoke. That night, while Runa is watching TV, Haida walks into the room, and she tells him about Akane's busted laptop. He thinks the latest FOS update was too much for the poor thing to handle. Runa feels bad for Akane and says she won't be able to play until she can save up enough money for a new one. The next day, Akane is stuck reading books instead of gaming, and it's so painful that she starts crying. While she's sulking, there's a knock at the door, and to her surprise, it's Yamada and Runa. Runa says she dragged Yamada there so he could take a look at her computer. Haida had called Yamada the night before and asked him to swing by after Runa's tutoring session to help Akane. Yamada didn't want to at first, but then he remembered how happy she looked talking about her shoes, so he changed his mind. In the present, Akane is delighted to see him, but he tells her not to expect a miracle since he's no tech wizard. As he begins checking the system, Akane excuses herself to grab snacks, but Runa follows and points out that her plot armor is still hanging in plain view. Akane freaks out, grabs her laundry, and silently thanks the heavens that Yamada didn't see it. She returns to the kitchen, pours some juice, and asks if they'd like her to cook something. They both say yes, and Yamada says he actually enjoyed the curry she gave him the other day. Runa hears this out of curiosity and remembers the first time Haida mentioned meeting Akane in-game. He said Akane is a pure-hearted person who doesn't hide who she is, and it'll be a perfect match for Yamada. At that time, Runa refused to let a stranger into their group, but now she sees them together and wonders if they should really be dating. As they talk, Runa quietly takes a picture of them together and sends it to Haida, who immediately starts gushing and asks Runa to set them up. Later, as Akane cooks food for them, Runa joins her and asks if she's going to take a bath, hoping she'll make Yamada walk in on her. However, when she says no, she walks away disappointed. Eventually, she just grabs Akane and throws into Yamada, which upsets Akane. As she gets up to discipline Runa, her hair hits Yamada's eye, which diverts her attention. Akane panics and grabs his face to see if he's okay. Not even realizing how close they are, Yamada calmly tells her he's fine and asks her to back off a little. Akane feels embarrassed and apologizes, telling Runa to say sorry too, since this was all her fault. Yamada brushes it off and says he's heading home to grab some tools to fix the laptop. After he leaves, Runa notes that he looked like he was running away, and Akane starts wondering if he was really that bothered by their little accidental closeness. When Akane was up close to Yamada's face, he stared into her eyes, which made his heart beat faster. Not understanding what's happening, he decided to exit her apartment, only to be hit by yet another flashback of a girl crying for him. He heads to a convenience store to buy tea, and the cashier tries to make small talk with him. She says she's been meaning to ask for his name because she is interested in getting railed, but Yamada coldly tells him that he is in a hurry. The expression on her face changes, and Yamada recalls Hada telling him he is gonna die a virgin if he doesn't change. Despite that, he decides this is too much for him and walks away. When he finally returns, he sees that both girls have fallen asleep, with a plate of food left out for him. Wanting to let them rest, he quietly sets up and begins working on her laptop. One of his tools slips and rolls near Akane, but thankfully she doesn't wake up. When he picks it up, his eyes linger on her sleeping face, and he notices she's clipped her hair after the incident. For some reason, he gently unclips it and lets her hair fall naturally. A moment later, the doorbell rings, and when Yamada answers it, he finds Akane's ex-boyfriend Takuma standing there. The guy seems surprised to see Yamada and starts screaming, so Yamada closes the door behind him so the girls don't wake up. He asks what he's doing at her place, admitting he never really believed they were dating. Yamada doesn't say much, so the guy explains that he just came to return some containers Akane used to pack lunch for him back when they were still together. He admits that seeing the containers made him think about her, and he started wondering if he was doing okay, so he wanted to check on her to get some peace of mind. For some reason, Yamada hesitantly tells him that Akane is doing well without him, so Takuma apologizes for coming over and asks Yamada not to tell her. With that, he hands over the bags and waves goodbye, while Yamada stands and watches. After the guy leaves, Akane wakes up and opens the door. Yamada tells her that these boxes showed up out of nowhere, which makes Akane laugh. She knows Takuma was here, so as they head back inside, she thanks him for dealing with her ex. As she puts the containers back, Yamada returns her hair clip, and she thinks it fell off while she was asleep. However, Yamada admits he took it off while she was sleeping. Akane is surprised and asks why, but he simply says he doesn't know, which makes loins burn. Before he can explain further, he gets a call from Hada, and Akane watches in confusion, wondering what's happening to him. A few days later, Akane interviews for a job at a nearby convenience store. Since she's absolutely broke, she happily tells the manager that she will take as many shifts as possible if she doesn't have classes. On her way home, she calls Momo to share the news, and Momo is confused, asking why she needs a job when her laptop is already fixed. Akane says she still wants to pay Yamada back, especially since Hada donated most of the parts, and she doesn't want to just rely on people without doing something in return. Momo wishes her luck and ends the call, saying she's currently with a group of friends trying to get laid. Later that evening, Akane logs into FOS straight out of the shower and finds Hada sitting alone in the guild hall. She goes over to chat, and Hada greets him in his usual Ruri fashion. He says he was having a meeting with the sub-master Kamoda, though his in-game character is just a tiny floating sheep-like creature, which startles her. Hada tells her that since Kamoda is usually at the dungeons, seeing him here is pretty rare. They talk for a bit, and she brings up the cost of the computer parts, insisting that she wants to repay them. Hada brushes it off, saying they were second-hand parts anyway, but suggests that instead of money, she can help them carry out the plan they were discussing before she joined the chat. Meanwhile, at school, Yamada and his classmates are getting ready for the upcoming school festival. As he goes out to take out the trash, a group of girls nearby debates whether they should talk to him or not. Before they can decide, one of Yamada's classmates, Okamoto, joins him and tries to convince him to enter the beauty pageant. He says Yamada would easily win since so many girls are into him, but Yamada isn't interested. Just as they finish tossing the trash, someone calls out to Yamada to tell him his phone is ringing back in class. As he walks back to class, the annoying classmate joins him and tries to befriend him so he can use Yamada's popularity to get some shawties on his lollipop. When he returns, he finds that his phone is placed on top of a small towel on his desk. Tsubaki, the girl sitting next to him, says she put it there because it was vibrating too much and it disturbed her. Yamada apologizes and returns the towel, and Tsubaki brings up his recent live gameplay. She bluntly says his aim was off and his reactions were slow. Asking if he's gotten worse from playing too much FOS, Yamada tells himself that the lag was from overloaded servers, but before he can speak, Tsubaki says that only new players blame lag. Her words leave him quiet, and he turns his attention to a message Hada sent in the guild chat. Hada asks him to get the festival tickets for everyone in the guild, casually mentioning that Akane is paying for all of them. A few days later, Akane meets up with Kamoda and Runa outside Yamada's school for the festival, and the three of them head in together. As they walk around, they spot Hada in the crowd, but they all pretend not to know him since he's wearing ridiculous rabbit ears that are hard to ignore. Akane then asks Runa if she wants to eat something, but Runa coldly says she's not hungry. A bit confused, Akane looks at Kamoda, who explains that Runa's probably just nervous because the entrance exams for this school are coming up next year. Akane tries to cheer her up, and Kamoto tells her not to worry, saying he believes Runa will do just fine, but Runa doesn't seem convinced. They continue walking around the school, and when Haida suggests going into the haunted house, Runa refuses and clings to Akane. Akane asks again what she wants to do instead, but Runa says her stomach hurts from being nervous, so Akane takes her to the bathroom to rest. While waiting outside, Akane gets a text from Haida, telling them to meet outside in 15 minutes. She thinks about messaging Yamada too, but decides against it, worried it might make her look desperate. Just as she puts her phone away, she hears boxes falling nearby and looks up to see Yamada helping his classmates carry supplies. She thinks about calling out to him, but another student beats her to it, so she quietly watches him instead, secretly hoping he'll notice her. When he disappears into the classroom, she returns to her spot outside the bathroom and starts to worry since Runa is taking longer than expected. But then, Yamada suddenly appears behind her and reaches out to tap her shoulder. She turns around, surprised, and asks how he knew she was there. He tells her he saw her earlier and was about to call out before he got stuck with the boxes. That makes Akane happy, knowing he noticed her, and she can't help but smile. Yamada asks why she's smiling, but Akane says no reason, and the two keep talking for a while. Unknown to them, Tsubaki is watching their interaction from her classroom window, curious about what's going on. Akane then tells Yamada that Runa has been locked in the bathroom for a while and they should check up on her. Later, they both take Runa to the nurse's office since her stomach is still acting up. Yamada pulls out his phone to let Haida know, but Runa quickly jumps on him and snatches it away. She says she doesn't want Haida finding out she's sick, because he'll drag her home before she gets a chance to enjoy the food at the festival. Akane promises to get Runa whatever food she wants, so Runa lists her cravings and even asks for a festival t-shirt. Yamada offers to help Akane find the shirt since he knows where it's sold, so they go together. As they walk through the halls, other students start whispering and staring at them. Akane feels a little awkward being in the spotlight, but there's nothing she can do because Yamada is the Henry Cavill of his school. While she tries to pick up the pace, Yamada accidentally bumps into his PE teacher, who immediately starts teasing him for walking around with a girl. He starts smacking Yamada in a playful manner, happy that he's finally letting a shoddy bounce on his pogo stick. The teacher then turns to Akane and asks which school she goes to, and when she says she's in college, he jokes that he didn't know Yamada had a thing for older women. After the teacher walks off, a group of younger girls run over and ask if Akane and Yamada are dating. Akane quickly denies it, but the girls keep throwing questions at them, and it starts to get overwhelming. Eventually, they make it outside and collapse on a nearby bench, completely drained from all the attention. Just then, Haida and Kamoto arrive after buying a bunch of stuff, and Haida notices that Akane looks tired. When Akane tells them what happened, Haida laughs and tells her that the same thing happened to Runa last year when she walked around with Yamada. He then jokingly suggests that Akane and Yamada start dating for real, just to shut everyone up. Akane's eyes widen in shock, but Yamada doesn't react at all because he clearly doesn't get that Haida is teasing. Haida chuckles at Yamada's cluelessness but stops when he sees Akane blushing in 50 Shades of Red. He apologizes, saying it was just a joke, but Akane, now flustered, says she's going to get Runa's food and storms off. Haida thinks about chasing after her to apologize, but Yamada gets up and goes after her first, leaving Haida in shock. Meanwhile, Akane is still flustered and confused, wondering why Haida said what he did and why Yamada didn't say anything in response. As she hurries through the crowd, she accidentally bumps into Tsubaki. Akane quickly apologizes and rushes off again when she sees Yamada approaching, leaving Tsubaki wondering what just happened. Moments later, Yamada appears, ignoring Tsubaki completely and calling out to Akane, asking her to stop running before she hurts herself. She turns around, surprised, and Yamada tells her she might trip on the stairs if she keeps running like that. Tsubaki sees this and realizes she's not needed, so she quietly walks away. Yamada catches up to Akane and apologizes for what happened earlier, but Akane seems to have already forgotten about it. Instead, she points out that this is the first time he's ever said her name. Yamada says she must have said it before, but Akane insists she's right and jokes that maybe he doesn't even know her name. Her voice draws attention from the students nearby, making her uncomfortable again, so without thinking, she grabs Yamada's hand and pulls him up the stairs to a quieter area. Once they're alone, Akane apologizes for dragging him there and explains that the crowd was just too much for her. Yamada says it's fine and then apologizes again for Haida's joke. Akane says she's not mad at all, which confuses him since he thought she was upset. She explains that she just ran off because she was embarrassed. When he asks why she felt embarrassed, Akane avoids the question and says it's not important. Yamada doesn't push her for an answer and starts walking away, but Akane stops him with one last question. She asks what he would have done if she'd said yes to Haida's suggestion that they start dating. Yamada stays quiet for a moment, thinking, and just when it looks like he might say something, Akane panics and says it was only a joke. As she walks down the stairs, Yamada suddenly speaks up. He tells her that if she had said yes, it would have been a huge honor for someone like him. He adds that she's way out of his league and that a guy like him doesn't deserve to be with a girl like her. Akane is stunned by his words and doesn't know how to respond. For once, she's completely speechless, so she just follows after him quietly to go buy Runa's food like they planned. A few days later, Yamada drops by the convenience store where Akane works, and after ringing up his purchase, she makes him draw a lot for a lucky draw. She also mentions how they haven't seen each other since the festival and asks about Runa. Yamada says she's doing well, so she asks him to wait outside since her shift is about to end. While she's wrapping things up, one of her coworkers teases her about Yamada, asking who he is. Akane casually says he's just a friend, but the woman isn't buying it and knows Akane really wants to get back from him. Caught off guard, Akane admits she doesn't really know when her feelings started to change, but something about him just feels different now. Once her shift ends, she joins Yamada outside and hands him a bento box she made as a small thank you gift for fixing her computer. He tells her it wasn't necessary, but accepts it anyway with a small smile. While waiting at the crosswalk, Akane sneezes and starts digging through her bag for a mask so she doesn't pass her cold on to him. She's so focused on finding it that she doesn't see someone speeding past on a bike, and Yamada quickly pulls her closer to keep her safe. The sudden touch leaves her frozen for a moment, but he doesn't seem fazed and acts like nothing happened. Once she finds her mask and puts it on, they continue walking like normal, even though her cookie is all moist. Later that evening, she meets up with Momo and explains how confused she has been feeling regarding Yamada. She cannot tell if Yamada is into her or just being kind in general, which bothers her a lot. As Momo paints her nails, she says if a hot guy ever approached her, she'd hop on his D train all night without thinking. She then advises him to stop worrying about what Yamada thinks and focus on what she wants. Just then, Akane gets a call from Runa, who tells her to meet immediately. Soon after, Akane meets up with Runa at the park, and as soon as she sits beside her on the swings, Runa immediately brings up a message Hada sent to the group. She's clearly irritated and can't believe Akane isn't more concerned about them getting a new guild member. Akane says she's looking forward to it, but Runa clearly isn't. She even pulls out a notebook where she's listed out a plan to scare the new member away, but Akane shuts it down and says she's not getting involved in that mess. She then hands her a drink, asking her to welcome the new girl because she might become a good friend like they have. This ticks Runa off even more because she thinks Akane will dump her for the new girl. Akane tries to comfort her, but Runa pouts and says she expected this kind of response from Akane, just like Ada, who warned her not to bully the new girl. She explains that the newcomer is Yamada's classmate, who usually plays FPS games, but wants to take a break and play FOS. Runa knows the two of them are pretty close, but when she called Yamada to ask about her, he brushed it off. Akane looks surprised to hear that Yamada even has female friends at school. But before she can think more about it, Runa takes her phone and puts Yamada's number into it. She tells Akane to call him and ask about the new girl since he won't say anything if Runa herself calls. Meanwhile, Yamada is at prep school with his friends Tsubaki and Okamoto. As they sit together, Tsubaki thanks Yamada for letting him into their guild, and Okamoto sits between them like the ultimate third wheel, easing his Big Mac. When Yamada's phone starts ringing, he ignores it, saying the number is unfamiliar. Okamoto jokes that it's probably some girl calling to confess, but Yamada just shrugs it off. Tsubaki sternly tells Okamoto to leave the guy alone because he isn't into romance. After class, the three of them walk together to the train station, and while Okamoto is whining about being hungry, Yamada stops to return the missed call. He's surprised to hear Akane's voice on the other side, and they chat for a bit until she sneezes again. He asks if she's alright, and she tells him she's just a little under the weather and has to get to work soon. After the call ends, Tsubaki asks who it was, and he casually tells her it was Akane. She remembers seeing Akane at the school festival, and Yamada mentions that she's also in their guild, which means she'll get to know her soon. Curious, Tsubaki asks what kind of person Akane is, which makes Yamada recall all the times he was moved by Akane's goofiness and kindness. In the end, he struggles to find the right words to describe her, making Tsubaki wonder if he likes her. That night, Akane's manager begs him to take a shift because his helper is on leave, and she angrily joins him in the store. While in the back, she looks at herself in the mirror, reflecting on the conversation she had with Momo. The next day, during Runa's tutoring session, Akane calls to say she won't be able to log in that night because she's feeling sick. Runa tells her to take care of herself and ends the call. Meanwhile, Akane is barely holding herself together in her apartment. She manages to get a glass of water, but her throat hurts too much to swallow, and she hasn't eaten anything all day. She figures she should eat something before taking medicine, so she tries to leave for the store when Momo doesn't answer her calls. But she's so weak that she falls while trying to get on her bike and has no energy to lift it back up. She gives up and decides to go back to her room and order food online, but her body refuses to move. right when she's about to pass out. Someone steps in and helps her with the bike. She looks up and sees Yamada, but she believes it's just a hallucination. But when everything starts to blur, she leans back, completely losing consciousness. Thankfully, Yamada catches her in time and carries her all the way back to her apartment. At the same time, Okamoto and Tsubaki are trying to reach Yamada since they were supposed to head to prep school together. When he doesn't answer his phone, Okamoto jokes that Yamada must be too busy getting piping a shoddy. Tsubaki quickly defends him, saying Yamada isn't the type to ditch schoolwork just because of a girl. Okamoto tells her that love can change people, then casually teases her to confess before someone else snatches him up. Tsubaki stays quiet for a second, then quietly admits that she already knows someone could take Yamada away from her anytime, and to Okamoto's surprise, she starts crying. Back when they first met, Tsubaki approached Yamada in class and told him that they were in the same game last night, and she is convinced he cheated because no one is this good. She called him out and demanded to watch him play in real time, and instead of getting defensive, Yamada just agreed. He took both Tsubaki and Okamoto to his apartment, where she watched up close while Yamada showed his god-tier gaming skills. After seeing his skills, she realized her mistake and apologized, and from then on, they became good friends. At that point, her feelings were purely friendly, and she even felt bad for the girls who confessed to him and ended up heartbroken. Back in the second year, she noticed Yamada kept rejecting every girl who confessed to him, and people started to say he might be a little fruity. When she asked if there was someone he liked, he said no but shared a story about a girl he once knew. She was always getting bullied, so she barely came to school, and the teacher would often ask Yamada to deliver her homework. Slowly, she started attending school more regularly, and Yamada began spending more time with her to keep her company. One day, the girl asked him if he would always stay by her side. He told her honestly that he didn't think he could promise that. That moment crushed her, and she cried hard before transferring schools not long after. Yamada said he often thought about her and wondered if he could have avoided hurting her by choosing different words. That memory stuck with him and made him uncomfortable around girls. Since then, he's always been straightforward and quick to turn girls down. After hearing his story, Tsubaki made up her mind never to fall for him, telling herself that liking Yamada would be like willingly breaking her own heart. Back in the present, Yamada tries to help Akane drink water, but she can't swallow, and it spills onto her pillow. He quickly removes the soaked pillow and tries to cool her down with a wet cloth, but that does not help. He wakes her up to ask her where she keeps her health insurance card, and after she tells him, he takes her to the hospital. Soon after, Yamada walks out carrying her in his arms, and Akane gains consciousness for a few seconds and assumes she is having a dream. After getting treated at the hospital, Akane wakes up in her own bed feeling much better, though she's confused about how she got home. As she tries to sit up, she sees Yamada asleep on the floor and gasps in shock. She walks to the balcony door and opens it, letting the cold breeze in. The sudden chill wakes Yamada, and he hurries to close the door just as Akane starts sneezing again. With a fistful of tissues, she tells him he should stay far away before he catches her cold too. Yamada calmly tells her to lie back down, promising he'll explain everything once she's comfortable. Once she's settled, he tells her that he found her nearly passed out by the bike racks and carried her home. Akane is stunned because she thought seeing him earlier had been part of a fever dream, realizing he actually helped her when she needed it most. She starts crying, but quickly assures him she's okay and thanks him for saving her life in the most Oscar-worthy performance. She tries to instinctively hug Yamada, but he backs off a little and steps on a book. Upon picking it up, he sees that it's a consolation book for those who got pumped and dumped, and Akane quickly snatches it, saying he'll never understand it because he's never been dumped. Once she calms down, she thanks him for being so kind, but Yamada recalls the girl whose heart he broke and tells her he's not the person she thinks he is. Seeing the look on his face reminds her of Takuma, who was exhausted and in pain, and she says she is glad he dumped her straight up instead of lying to her. Instead of crying, she just accepted it with a smile. So one day, when he looks back on it, he remembers her as a happy memory. Then maybe he will regret letting her go, but it will be too late by then. This reminds Yamada of the same girl, who in their last encounter started crying, but before she left. She thanked him with a smile because he had always been there for her. Later, Akane checks her fever, which has gone down, so he hands her some yogurt to eat. As she's eating, she tells herself that she would have screamed if it were anyone other than Yamada when she woke up, but Yamada gives off pure vibes, which makes her feel calm. While handing him the empty cup, her leg cramps up from the way she had been sitting. She yelps in pain, and Yamada tells her to stretch it out, but she can't do it herself. Without saying much, he moves aside the blanket and climbs into the bed to help her. Akane realizes what's happening and starts flailing her other leg out of panic, but Yamada dodges her kicks and focuses on massaging her cramping leg. Once the pain fades, she relaxes, and he tells her she was being dramatic for no reason. She mutters a quiet thanks, but notices he's looking at her a bit too closely. Her heart starts to race, and she wonders what he's thinking, only to realize he's reaching out to grab the spoon from the yogurt cup. She backs away too fast, hits her head, and then stares in embarrassment when she realizes what actually happened. Yamada starts smiling because Akane thought he was about to make a move on her, and Akane begs him to stop teasing her. The next morning, Akane thanks him again for taking care of her. As Yamada prepares to leave, she unconsciously grabs the edge of his jacket. When he asks if something's wrong, she quickly lets go and apologizes, claiming she's fine. Yamada gives her a puzzled look but doesn't say anything, and after a moment, he quietly heads out the door. That morning, Momo shows up at Akane's place with some groceries and quickly apologizes for not picking up her calls the night before. Akane tells her it's okay and explains that Yamada stayed over and looked after her the entire night, which completely catches Momo off guard. Curious, she asks if she got her kitty slapped, but Akane says they're just friends. Momo doesn't buy it and says it's strange for a guy to go that far for a girl if he feels nothing. Before heading out, Momo advises her that when it comes to love, timing matters more than anything else. That comment leaves Akane confused, especially since she's never thought of Momo as the type to dish out romantic wisdom. Later that day, after eating and reviewing some schoolwork, Akane logs into Foes, hoping to run into Heida and maybe do a little monster hunting. Luckily, she sees Heida online, and he's playing with Tsubaki. Akane jumps into their chat and introduces herself to Tsubaki, excitedly inviting her to come hunt with them. She agrees to go, and both of them decide to try their hardest to leave a good first impression. When they arrive at the hunting grounds, Heida finds a shady spot under a tree to relax and enjoy the view, while Tsubaki and Akane jump straight into a boss fight. They struggle to keep up and beg Heida for help, but he calmly decides to stay out of the fight, only casting healing spells whenever their health drops too low. Left with no choice, Akane and Tsubaki start smashing every skill they've got, hoping to unlock some secret move that'll save them, but nothing works. Tsubaki then comes up with another strategy, but it fails too, and the boss ends up walking away, clearly unimpressed. Even though they don't win, both girls brush it off and begin talking about what went wrong and how they could improve next time. Heida watches them from the side, happy that they are getting along well. After that, Akane logs off, and she gives Yamada a call. She talks about the hunt and how she teamed up with Tsubaki and Heida, then starts asking for tips on how to beat high-level bosses. Their conversation drags on for a while, and when Akane finally realizes how late it's gotten, she tells him she just wanted to hear his voice and ends the call. But as soon as she hangs up, she notices her hands won't stop trembling. She knows exactly what saying those words means. In a rush of emotion, she calls Momo and says there's something she really needs to talk about. Momo tells her to wait until she's fully recovered, and they agree to meet in person a week later. When they finally meet up at a cafe, Akane builds the suspense, but instead of talking about Yamada, she asks Momo if she can explain why her ex broke up with her. Momo, clearly disappointed, sighs and waves the waiter over before answering. Once the waiter leaves, Momo admits she thought Akane wanted to talk about her feelings for Yamada and says she was genuinely excited. Instead, Akane brought up her ex again, which makes Momo wonder if she's still hung up on that loser. Akane insists that she's moved on but says she needs closure to be able to fully let go. She wants to know if there was something wrong with her that caused the breakup. Momo tells her she isn't the problem, hoping that'll help ease her mind. Just then, two guys stroll into the cafe and immediately head toward their table. Ignoring the waitress trying to seat them, Momo recognizes them as the same annoying guys from a recent group date and tells Akane to ignore them. Akane does her best to act cold and unbothered, but the guys don't get the hint and keep talking to them, making things awkward and uncomfortable. Thankfully, their food arrives, and to Akane's surprise, it's Heida who's serving. He calmly asks the two guys who they are, and they claim to be friends of Akane and Momo. The waitress steps in and corrects them, so Heida politely asks them to move to another table. When they ignore him, Heida drops his friendly tone and repeats the request in a much firmer voice that instantly shuts them up. Feeling the pressure, the guys finally back off, and Heida goes back to his usual cheerful self like nothing happened. Curious, Momo asks how Akane knows him, and she explains that Heida is one of her guildmates in FOS. This makes Momo wonder if all gamer guys are hot, and if she should try scoring herself one. After the cafe closes, Heida heads out, only to find Akane and Momo waiting for him outside. He jokingly asks if they're there to beg for his autograph or join his non-existent fan club, but Akane quickly shuts that down. She tells him she actually needs to talk to him about something serious. She heads to a nearby park with Momo and Heida, but she's so nervous she doesn't say a word for a while. Then, out of nowhere, Momo casually blurts out that Akane's in love, causing Akane panic and embarrassment. Heida thanks Momo for saving them time, then turns to Akane and praises her for getting back on her feet after the breakup. But Momo isn't ready to stop stirring things up and tells Heida that Akane's been feeling down because she still doesn't understand why her ex broke up with her, since there's no use hiding it now. Akane explains that since both Ruri and Momo have been there for her during her hardest times, he wanted to tell them in person that she has fallen in love. After hearing her out, Heida smiles and encourages her to confess to Yamada, promising that even if it doesn't go well, he and Momo will be right there to cheer her up. Feeling a bit braver, Akane heads off to find Yamada. Meanwhile, Momo decides to try flirting with Heida, but sadly for her, it doesn't go anywhere. Meanwhile, Akane takes the train and then runs all the way to Yamada's place. Yamada answers the door, looking surprised to see her all out of breath, and asks what she wants. She stands there trying to figure out how to say what's on her mind, but before she can speak, two old people start yelling friendly greetings at each other across the street, and a small dog starts barking right after. The loud noise makes it impossible for her to get a word in, which makes her feel hopeless. Yamada tells her he's about to leave for prep school and asks if she can wait for him while he gets ready. She agrees and stands by the door, but to her shock, Yamada gently pulls her into the house by closing the door. He casually tells her to make herself comfortable, totally unaware that his closeness is making her heart race. As he walks into his room, Akane stands frozen, but quickly spins around when Yamada, without warning, takes off his shirt. In a few minutes, he's fully dressed, and they leave together for the station. As they walk, Akane falls deep into thought, wondering if she should really confess or just stay friends to avoid ruining what they already have. Her mind drifts so far that she almost walks straight into traffic, but Yamada pulls her back just in time. He asks if she's okay, but she starts murmuring to herself, so he simply grabs her hand and leads her across the street when the light turns green. Once they reach the train station, Yamada apologizes for not having enough time to talk and says they'll have to continue the conversation later. Akane tells him it's fine, but the look in her eyes makes him realize she's not really satisfied. He comes back and promises to call her after class. This makes her face light up, and she says she'll be waiting, which makes Yamada smile as well. Not long after they part ways, the skies open up and heavy rain starts falling. Even after class ends, it's still pouring, and when Okamoto asks Yamada how he's getting home, Yamada says he has an umbrella. Hearing this, Okamoto asks if he can share it with him, but when he realizes Tsubaki doesn't have one, he gives up his spot to her. Tsubaki hesitates, but Okamoto nudges her, telling her it's the perfect chance to confess her feelings. She reluctantly agrees and walks with Yamada. While they walk, Yamada notices that Tsubaki is getting soaked, so he hands her the umbrella and starts running ahead. She still hasn't said her piece, so she tries to follow him, but crashes into someone and falls to the ground, her glasses flying off. She's nearly blind without them, so she gets on her hands and knees to search. Luckily, Yamada comes back and helps her find them, but they're broken. As she looks up at his blurry face, she suddenly says that she likes him. Shocked by her own words, she covers her mouth with both hands, dropping the umbrella in the process. Yamada doesn't say anything and just picks it up for her. As Tsubaki starts crying, she apologizes for putting him in an awkward spot but begs him to just think about her feelings for one night. Later that night, Yamada sends Akane a message, saying he's too tired to talk and that they'll have to chat another day. She is a little bummed out but decides to respect his wishes. The next afternoon, while Yamada is tutoring Runa, Heida comes by and casually asks if someone confessed to him. Yamada looks surprised and asks how he knew, but Heida just grins and says it's a secret. Assuming the confession was from Akane, he asks if Yamada has responded yet. Yamada says no, explaining that he's still thinking about what to say. Heida, a bit concerned, tells him not to drag things out because leaving someone hanging is just another way of hurting them. That evening, Yamada shows up at Akane's workplace but doesn't go inside. Her coworker tells her he's waiting outside, so she quickly goes to meet him. He says he tried calling her, but her phone is off, and she apologizes because her battery died. Noticing something seems off, she gently asks if something's bothering him. Yamada says he's just tired from studying, but she doesn't fully buy it. Still, she doesn't press and instead starts telling him about a new sword she got in-game. When he asks what kind of sword it is, she smiles and tells him to hold out his hand so she can draw it. Once she's done, she tells him that even if she doesn't know what's bothering him, she hopes he cheers up soon. She adds that she prefers the calm, mysterious Yamada over the moody, silent one. Her words strike something in him, and he finally opens up. He admits that he usually stays quiet because he's scared of saying the wrong thing. He also says he often feels like he's a useless nobody, especially since he struggles to understand jokes and people's emotions. Hearing this, Akane looks straight at him and says that to her and the rest of their friends, he's the most thoughtful and kind person they know. She tells him not to ever call himself a nobody again because none of them see him that way. Later that night, Tsubaki meets Yamada, and she already knows he's getting rejected, so she prepares herself for it. She admits she's liked him for a long time, but kept it to herself because she didn't want to ruin their friendship. She then asks Yamada if he is willing to hear her out, and he calmly says yes. Feeling a little braver now, she tells him all the little things she loves about him, like how well he plays, how calm he is, and how he looks out the classroom window whenever he's bored. while Yamada listens in surprise. When she finishes, she starts crying, and even though she can't see his face without her glasses, she says she doesn't regret falling for him at all. Moved by her honesty, Yamada feels his eyes sting, and when he tries to wipe them, she notices the sketch Akane drew on his hand. When she asks who did it, he casually says it's from a friend, but she knows it was from Akane. She tells him he likes Akane more than just a friend, and after a long pause, Yamada finally admits that she's right. Yamada then thanks her for being honest and apologizes for not feeling the same way about her. Though the truth stings, Tsubaki says she's glad he was kind enough to hear her out. Once her tears settle, she turns to leave, but without her glasses, she walks straight into a vending machine. Yamada asks if she wants him to walk her home, but she quickly says no, already embarrassed enough for one night. A few days later, Akane meets up with Runa, Ada, and Kawamoto outside a new restaurant. As they head inside, they realize the place is filled with people who seem to know Kawamoto because the place is run by his friend. They're shown to a private dining room, and once the food comes, Akane happily says it's the best meat she's ever had. Ada agrees, though he mentions it's too bad Tsubaki couldn't make it. Runa, however, says she's glad because she still sees Tsubaki as a rival and is making no effort to hide it. Just then, a few waiters arrive with extra dishes and wine, saying the food was sent by Kawamoto's friends. Kawamoto tells everyone to enjoy it, though only he and Akane are old enough to drink. Time passes and Yamada finally shows up, so Runa runs over to tell him how amazing the food is, but then she suddenly stops talking and stares in fear, saying Akane is back. Before Yamada can even ask what she means, a very drunk Akane throws herself on him, babbling nonsense. Yamada asks how she got this wasted, and Runa explains she drank the whole bottle of wine by herself. Tired of Akane clinging to her, Runa begs Yamada to take her home, and he agrees, apologizing for missing dinner. At the train station, Akane dozes off, so Yamada presses a cold water bottle to her cheek. Waking her up a little, she apologizes for causing trouble and says he can leave since she's feeling better, but Yamada refuses. He says there are too many creeps around, and he doesn't trust anyone else to make sure she gets home safe. Holding out his hand, he waits for her to take it, and once she does, they walk together. At one point, her heel gets stuck, so Yamada kneels down, helps her free it, and slips her shoe back on like a total gentleman, which makes Akane fall for him even more. Then he grabs her hand again, and they continue walking until they reach her place. At the door, she thanks him, and just as he turns to leave, she suddenly calls out and asks if he likes her. Yamada smiles and says he didn't expect her to catch on that fast, surprising her. Unsure what he means, she stares at him, so he looks her straight in the eyes and says he likes her. He promises to say it again the next day, just so she'll remember it when she's sober. As he turns to go, she quietly asks if she can call him in the morning to make sure this isn't a dream. Yamada tells her she can, and instead of leaving, he pulls her in for a hug. The next morning, Akane calls like she said she would, and Yamada confirms everything she remembers is real. Later at school, she tells Momo all about it, and her friend is over the moon hearing they're finally together. During lunch, another classmate jokes that Akane is bold for dating someone younger, which makes her feel a bit awkward. So when she meets up with Yamada later, she tries to play it cool and says she'll do her best not to be a burden to him during her entrance exams. However, Yamada doesn't hear a word she said because he's too busy staring at her teeth. When she realizes it, she gets embarrassed, but he tells her she has nice teeth, so she shouldn't feel weird. After they leave the cafe, Yamada offers to walk her home. As they walk, she keeps glancing at him, and when he asks what she's thinking, she admits she wants to hold his hand. Without hesitation, he takes her hand, but doesn't understand why she didn't just say it outright. He then recalls the first time he saw Akane and wondered why she would wear heels if they hindered her movement. In the end, he realizes he might never understand girls, but even then, he is in love with one. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you made it to the end, comment, "I love feet" as proof.